In a quiet rural village nestled between emerald hills and sprawling fields, life moved with a gentle rhythm, shaped by seasons, tending crops, and the interwoven relationships of family and community. It was here, amid the fragrant scent of ripe guavas and the fresh tang of lemons, that a remarkable story of hope, learning, and love quietly unfolded. At the heart of this story was Truong, a man respected by the villagers for his kindness and steady support, and young Dewey, a child full of curiosity and promise, but still taking his first essential steps into the world of literacy and knowledge. The morning sun poured soft golden light onto the small but lively courtyard where Truong and Dewey sat together, a simple table between them, covered with books, papers, and the scattered remnants of freshly picked fruit. Around them, the village stirred. Elderly women tending gardens, children playing nearby, merchants setting up stalls, and the aroma of freshly cut guavas wafting through the air. This was a community grounded in the land and the bonds that connected its members, a place where survival was a shared endeavor and nurturing the young was seen as a collective responsibility. Truong played a pivotal role beyond that of a mere caretaker. He was a patient teacher and a beacon of hope for Dewey's future. From early dawn, as sunlit lime and guava branches shimmered with dew, Truong would sit with Dewey and guide him through the beginnings of reading and writing. The task went far beyond simple instruction. It was an act of love, a challenge to open doors to knowledge and opportunity that might otherwise remain closed. With every exercise, every word sounded aloud, and every letter patiently traced, Truong built not only Dewey's skills, but also his confidence and curiosity. On this particular day, the lesson began amidst the casual exchange of fresh produce. Grandmothers and neighbors gathered, buying lemons and guavas from makeshift stalls. The vibrant freshness of the lemons was hard to resist, their bright yellow skins almost glowing in the sunlight. Conversations flowed easily, part barter, part companionship. Prices were discussed with customary bargaining, with Truong reminding Dewey politely to pay for the fruit, helping him understand the value of money alongside the sweetness of the fruit. These simple exchanges were lessons in both literacy and life, blending the practical with the educational. The scene painted a picture of contentment and community. Familiar faces greeted one another, occasional laughter swept over the courtyard, and even the youngest ones watched with wide eyes as Truong patiently encouraged Dewey to name animals, objects, and sounds. The environment was nurturing, where mistakes were met with gentle corrections, and progress was celebrated with smiles and gentle claps of encouragement. Truong's teaching was rhythmic and melodic, turning even the most mundane words into little victories. "What is this?" he'd ask, pointing to pictures in a book: a cat, a bird, a motorbike. With each correct answer came the reassuring sound of applause, while soft chuckles punctuated false starts. The effort was as playful as it was purposeful. Part of this education involved living vocabulary, words that mattered in their daily lives. Tools, animals, fruits, sounds, and common sights became vocabulary practices. A motorbike, so common in the village yet still an exciting idea for a child to master, provided a tactile connection between language and experience. The sounds of animals, the meow of a cat, the cluck of a chicken, even the buzzing sting of a bee, were recited and mimicked, creating a sensory bridge between letter and life. At times, Truong gently coaxed Dewey to sound out difficult words, his finger tracing the letters slowly as he pronounced syllables to help Dewey gain confidence. The boy listened attentively, his brow furrowed as he concentrated, then breaking into a delighted grin upon successful pronunciation. The lessons were interspersed with small breaks, moments to sip water, share sweets, or simply sit side by side under the dappled shade of fruit trees. These pauses were as important as the instruction itself, cultivating comfort, patience, and trust. Throughout the morning, the trading of lemons and guavas continued, intertwined seamlessly with the educational moments. Nearby elders joined in, offering produce or inviting Dewey to practice counting. 1, 2, 3, They would count along with him as he tallied the fruit weighing scales, blending numeracy with language, turning everyday tasks into rich learning environments. Truong's role was that of both teacher and community member, balancing his focus between nurturing Dewey and participating in the village's daily life. Beyond the basic literacy lessons were deeper lessons in values. Truong modeled kindness, patience, diligence, and respect, values that extended far beyond the classroom. Whether negotiating prices kindly, tending fruit trees with care, or patiently guiding Dewey through frustration, he exemplified the importance of character and community as essential elements of true education. He knew that Dewey's future depended not only on the ability to read or write, but on possessing resilience and kindness. One particularly memorable interaction involved a young lemon bundle freshly cut from the tree that Truong's grandmother had planted many years ago. The fruit was not just sustenance, but a living symbol of growth and continuity. As Truong discussed the upcoming season's harvest with the elders, the conversation turned naturally toward patience and nurturing. "We will have lemons next season, just as long as we care for the trees," he explained to Dewey, subtly drawing parallels to learning itself. Growth took time, effort, and care, whether for fruit trees or young minds. Throughout the day, Dewey's vocabulary grew steadily. Words became more than mere sounds or symbols. They were keys opening doors to understanding the world. The objects Dewey learned about, motorbikes, umbrellas, fruit, animals, were part of his daily life, but also jumping off points into broader conversations, imagination, and connection. Truong encouraged him to describe the animals' behaviors and sounds, to make the connection between language and experience vibrant and meaningful. The playful nature of the lessons helped Dewey overcome moments of shyness or confusion. When he stumbled over words, Truong's laughter and encouragement reminded the boy that mistakes were part of learning, not something to be feared. This atmosphere of patience and persistent hope created fertile ground for Dewey's growth, building both skills and self-esteem. Outside their immediate lesson, the village itself was intertwined with these stories of growth and hope. Life cycles, planting, harvesting, caring for livestock, and celebrating small successes, mirrored the educational process. The fruits they sold and the animals they tended were tied to survival, but also to culture and identity. The gentle barter over lemons was not merely economic, but a ritual that kept community ties alive. As the afternoon wore on, Truong continued to guide Dewey with unwavering commitment. They practiced writing letters, the careful strokes on simple paper, sometimes faltering but always progressing. Truong reminded Dewey to hold the pen correctly, to write slowly and with intention, lessons in discipline and focus as much as literacy. The boy's small hands grew steadier, the symbols on the pages taking recognizable shape. Their classroom was humble but rich, a simple wooden bench beneath a tree, the chatter of village life punctuating their studies. Occasionally, Truong's attention shifted to stories of the village past, tales of planting seasons, local legends, and the resilient spirits of the elders. These narratives reminded Dewey that literacy was not only a tool for personal success, but a gateway to the stories that bind a community together across generations. Through learning to read, he was gaining access to a heritage and identity that would shape his understanding of where he came from and who he could become. The bond growing between Truong and Dewey was profound. It was a connection grounded in mutual respect and care, a fusion of teaching and affection. Truong's encouragement was never forced, never hurried. He moved at the pace Dewey needed, aware that every child's path to discovery was unique. The victories were small but meaningful. A correctly read word, the ability to identify an object, the courage to sound out a sentence aloud. In the quiet moments when books were closed and lessons paused, their friendship deepened through ordinary joys, sharing fruit, watching birds in the trees, listening to the hum of village life. Truong knew that these moments were as formative as the lessons themselves. For education is not only about knowledge, but about nurturing the whole child. As the day faded into evening, the setting sun cloaked the village in rich hues of amber and rose. The lessons of the day, words learned, fruits weighed, hands guided, were laid down gently with a promise to return to them tomorrow. Truong understood that this was more than a daily routine. It was the planting of seeds that would one day grow into a bright and hopeful future for Dewey. Across the village, life moved steadily onward, but within this humble courtyard beneath the fruit trees, a quiet revolution was underway, the opening of Dewey's world through language, love, and the tireless kindness of a mentor who believed in him. The bright lemons and guavas were more than fruit. They were symbols of nurture and growth, just like the lessons Truong taught and the hope they inspired. This day in the life of Truong and Dewey stood as a testament to the power of education, the strength of community bonds, and the unspoken promise that, with care and patience, every child could be given the tools not only to read and write, but to dream and achieve. As days turned into weeks, the small village nestled between the lush green hills and the fertile fields witnessed a profound and unfolding transformation. It was not just in the crops ripening under the diligent care of the villagers or the routine hustle of daily life, but in the quiet, powerful growth of a young boy named Dewey and the deepening bond he shared with Truong, his patient and devoted mentor. What began as lessons in reading and writing blossomed into a rich journey of discovery, connection, and hope that touched more than just the two of them. It stirred the very soul of the community around them. Dewey's mornings often began under the tender gaze of the dawn, when the first soft rays of light kissed the earth and birds sang their delicate melodies, marking a new opportunity. Each day held a promise, but also a challenge, learning to master language, to understand and shape the symbols that carved out new worlds from blank pages. Truong, ever steady and encouraging, greeted him not only as a student, but as a young soul eager to explore the vast horizons locked away in letters and sounds. Their lessons had evolved from simple naming of animals, colors, and objects into more complex exercises that required patience, concentration, and a growing confidence. With careful guidance, Truong helped Dewey navigate the intricacies of Vietnamese script, introducing consonants and vowels, teaching him how to blend sounds into words and words into sentences. The delicate curves and sharp strokes of each character became a dance of the hand, the mind, and the heart, a choreography Truong conducted with gentle authority. Beyond just letters, there were stories. Truong read aloud tales from old books treasured by the village elders, fables of wise animals, legends of the mountains, and stories about kindness and courage. Young Dai listened, eyes wide with wonder, absorbing not only the language but the values nestled between the lines. These narratives offered more than entertainment. They planted seeds of identity, culture, and aspiration, weaving Dewey's personal learning into the broader tapestry of his heritage. Outside the lessons, life in the village was a symphony of tradition and toil. Each season brought its tasks, tending the lemon trees whose fruits still carried the vibrant zest that had marked their first encounters, harvesting guavas that glistened under the sun, caring for livestock, and preparing fields for the coming rains. This rhythm grounded the villagers, a harmony of labor and celebration that shaped the very backbone of their existence. Truong often took advantage of these moments to blend education seamlessly into daily life. When gathering lemons or weighing produce at market stalls, he challenged Dewey to count, to calculate prices, and to engage in simple bookkeeping, teaching that knowledge was not a distant concept, but a practical tool for livelihood. The boy's eyes sparkled with delight each time he correctly tallied the cost or identified a new fruit or vegetable. These lessons taught him that literacy bridged the gap between childhood fantasy and adult responsibility. The bond between Truong and Dewey deepened through shared laughter and earnest effort. Sometimes the exercises tested Dewey's patience. The demanding strokes of writing or the confusing spelling of certain words led to furrowed brows and tentative efforts. But Truong, always empathetic, would gently encourage him to try again, praising every small success. His faith in Dewey's ability never wavered, and this unwavering support was as vital as any lesson in phonics or grammar. Learning also incorporated sounds. the rich pantheon of rural life, Truong would ask Dewey to name an animal and imitate the sound it made: the meow of the cat, the quack of the duck, the buzz of the bee. Each sound a tribute to the life enlivening their village. These auditory lessons sharpened not just memory, but stimulated Dewey's speech and sense of rhythm, embedding language in the living world around him. As the months passed, Dewey's world expanded in tangible ways. Letters and words gave way to sentences and stories. Hesitance yielded to confidence. He began to write his own short passages, attempting to describe scenes from the village or recount tales from memory. Truong listened with pride, gently guiding him to correct grammar or spelling mistakes, but never diminishing the joy of expression. These moments were transformative. They shaped not only literacy, but identity, self-esteem, and belonging. The community responded warmly to their progress. Villagers, intrigued by the boy's growing skills, often stopped to encourage him, to share their own stories, or to assist in his education. The elders, too, offered their wisdom, telling stories in their dialects, teaching traditional songs, or explaining customs that deepened Dewey's roots in his culture. These interactions wove a rich social fabric, reinforcing that learning was never isolated but nurtured within the community. One of the most memorable lessons involved a trip to the lemon groves that Truong's grandmother had tended with loving care. Standing beneath the abundant branches heavy with fruit, Truong explained not only the biology of the tree, but the principles of patience and stewardship. Just as these trees need time and care to grow strong and fruitful, so does your mind, he said softly to Dewey. This metaphor resonated profoundly, the boy understanding that growth was a process, sometimes slow and difficult, but always rewarding. Such moments extended beyond words. Truong encouraged Dewey to help prune the trees, weigh the fruit, and assist in preparing the guavas for market. These acts instilled a sense of responsibility and connection to the land and the people who sustained it. Education was embodied. Knowledge was inseparable from action. During market days, the village square buzzed with activity. Vendors shouted their wares, children darted between stalls, and the scent of ripe produce mingled with laughter and chatter. Here, Truong guided Dewey in practicing practical skills, handling money, bargaining politely, and keeping track of purchases. They measured lemons carefully, calculating totals, and Dewey learned to understand the flow of commerce as an essential part of his community's livelihood. These lessons grounded literacy in reality and in dignity. Alongside these lessons of letters and commerce came lessons in kindness, generosity, and humility. Truong showed Dewey how to help neighbors, share fruit, and respect elders, virtues crucial to the fabric of village life. In these ways, Truong's teaching was holistic, blending literacy with life skills and moral education. The child's enthusiasm was contagious. As he slowly mastered writing and reading, his confidence blossomed, affecting his demeanor and interactions. Where once he shied away from speaking aloud, he now eagerly answered questions and read short passages with pride. His eyes would light up when Truong applauded his efforts, or when a new word made sense after persistent struggle. These victories carried weight in a life that was poised on the brink of transformation. One afternoon, as they sat beneath the shade of a large tree, Truong asked Dewey to describe what he imagined for his future. The boy's answers were simple but deeply hopeful. The desire to read books, to help his family, and to make them proud. Truong listened carefully, affirming each dream and quietly promising to help make it possible. Their relationship was more than teacher and student. It was a shared hope for a better tomorrow. The seasons continued their gentle passage. The rains came, watering fields and nourishing trees, and the harvests followed. Dewey participated fully in village life, helping gather fruit, tending animals, and attending occasional school sessions when available, but always returning to his lessons with Truong, because he knew that literacy was a key to unlocking the future. Truong's pride in Dewey's progress was matched only by his humility. He recognized that this was not only a singular achievement, but part of a larger collective effort of family, neighbors, and shared dreams. Amid these ordinary acts, the village itself seemed transformed. The hope reflected in Dewey's brightening prospects became a mirror for the community's own aspirations and resilience. Education was not simply about the mastery of reading or writing. It was a powerful force knitting together people, traditions, and generations. It was a testament to what could be achieved when patience, care, and love were invested in the next generation. Throughout this journey, Truong carried in his heart a vision, not only for Dewey's success, but for a future where every child could experience the joy and empowerment of learning. He understood the barriers they faced: poverty, scarcity of educational resources, and the relentless demands of rural life, yet he remained steadfast. His commitment was an unspoken promise that knowledge was a birthright and that nurturing it was the most profound contribution one could make to a child's life and to society. Even as challenges arose, days of fatigue, moments of doubt, or distractions by the demands of daily work, Truong and Dewey persevered together. And in doing so, they created something enduring, a partnership rooted in respect and hope, a small beacon of light that illuminated not only one boy's path, but the heart of a community. This ongoing story of a boy learning to read under the careful guidance of a devoted mentor was at once intimate and universal. It spoke to the power of education as a shaping force, to the beauty of intergenerational connection, and to the belief that with love and persistence, the brightest futures could be carved out even in the most humble places. As the sun set each day over the village, casting long, golden shadows across the fields and courtyards, Truong and Dewey's lessons continued, a quiet revolution of knowledge and hope, one word, one letter, and one shared moment at a time. As the seasons turned and the rhythms of village life unfolded once more, Truong's commitment to nurturing Dewey's learning intensified, shaping not only the boy's future, but also leaving a lasting imprint on the very fabric of their community. In these months, something extraordinary was quietly taking root beneath the familiar skies and among the fertile fields, an indelible transformation fueled by patience, kindness, and the power of education. In the early mornings, as the village awoke to the gentle sound of roosters crowing and dew settled softly on the leaves, Truong and Dewey would meet beneath the sturdy branches of a guava tree whose fruit had long symbolized life and continuity in this small world. The air was often thick with the scent of ripe fruit and fresh earth, a sensory backdrop to their lessons that blended nature's bounty with the richness of learning. Dewey came with a spark in his eyes, a hunger not just for knowledge but for connection, a desire to understand himself, his surroundings, and the promise carried in the letters he was learning to master. The lessons had evolved far beyond simple alphabet drills. Truong guided Dai through the intricate dance of language, combining sounds into syllables, breaking down complex words, and then building sentences that might one day tell stories of courage, hope, and community. Each session was an exercise in patience, not only for the child grappling with new concepts, but for Truong, who labored with gentle determination to ensure that every lesson connected with meaning and purpose. He knew that beyond teaching Dewey to read and write, he was opening a door to a larger world, one filled with potential. Their routine became a cherished part of the village's daily life. Villagers gathered nearby, watching with quiet admiration as the boy's confidence blossomed, his voice growing stronger with every recital of words, his hand steadier with every written stroke. Sometimes neighbors would pause to offer encouragement, a smile, or bring fruits from their gardens, fresh lemons, juicy guavas, or sweet sugarcane, as tokens of support and celebration. This collective encouragement was a vital thread woven through the story, reminding Dewey that his learning was not his alone, but a communal hope and pride. Over time, Dewey's lessons incorporated the village itself, turning everyday experiences into rich educational opportunities. When helping at the market, Truong would encourage him to read signs, count prices, or even write short notes for trades. These practical applications grounded abstract concepts in reality, helping the boy see literacy as not just an academic skill, but a powerful tool for life. The lessons were enriched by sounds from the village, the chatter of neighbors, the calls of animals, the distant hum of motorbikes, which Truong integrated into phonetic exercises and vocabulary expansion. This vibrant immersion deepened Dewey's understanding and made each word a thread connecting language to the living world. Beyond reading and writing, Truong was keenly aware of the importance of cultivating character and values alongside academics. Through stories and conversation, he imparted lessons on kindness, humility, perseverance, and respect, principles essential for thriving not only as an individual, but as a responsible member of the community. The tales of old that Truong shared were not fairy tales, but living histories, narratives of villagers who had overcome hardship, revered ancestors who cultivated these lands, and the cultural traditions that shaped their shared identity. These stories planted seeds in Dewey's heart, helping to root his learning in a deep sense of belonging and responsibility. As Dewey gradually mastered the alphabet, the strokes of his pen became surer, his reading more fluent. Truong marveled at these milestones, but more importantly, he saw a profound transformation in Dewey's demeanor. Where there had once been hesitation and shyness, blossomed a quiet confidence. The boy's eyes sparkled with pride at his own progress, and his eagerness to learn became contagious. The lessons, once laborious, now brought moments of joy and discovery. One of the most touching scenes unfolded on an afternoon when Truong brought a freshly picked basket of lemons, harvested from the ancestral trees tended by his grandmother. The fruit was not only sustenance, but a living symbol of growth and endurance. Under the wide canopy of branches heavy with fruit, Truong explained to Dewey the cycle of seasons, the patience required to nurture life, and how the fruits that sustained the village were the rewards of careful, consistent care. This metaphor resonated deeply with Dewey, who was beginning to appreciate that his own growth, like the lemons, required nurturing through persistence and patience. This lesson extended beyond the classroom to daily life as Dewey became more involved in the village's routines. He helped with weighing produce at market stalls, learned to calculate prices, and practiced polite negotiation. Each task was a bridge between literacy and livelihood, binding learning to the practical realities of his world. These experiences sharpened his skills and built his confidence in ways no book alone could accomplish. Music and sounds, too, played a role. Truong often included lessons on the natural and village sounds around them: the chirp of birds, the lowing of cattle, the rhythmic clatter of tools. Dewey learned to associate these sounds with words, honing his listening skills and developing a richer connection between language and his environment. This multisensory approach honored the cultural richness of his upbringing and made learning a joyous exploration rather than a chore. Community involvement grew steadily. Encouraged by Truong's example, neighbors took a more active role in visiting Dewey, offering encouragement, sharing stories, and occasionally assisting in his education. The village elders would often stop by, telling their own tales in local dialects that deepened Dewey's understanding of his heritage. These exchanges created a living classroom where education was not confined to textbooks or solitary study, but was woven through social interaction and shared experience. As Dewey's literacy matured, new possibilities unfolded before him. He began to write simple stories, many inspired by his life in the village, tales of the harvest, the animals he knew so well, and dreams narrated through his growing vocabulary. Truong would help him revise and improve these narratives, always careful to foster creativity alongside correctness. To Dewey, writing became a powerful means of self-expression, a way to capture and communicate the story of his own life, as well as to imagine futures yet to come. At times, the path was challenging. There were sessions when Dewey grew frustrated, when tiredness from chores or distractions clouded his focus. But Truong remained a steady presence, adapting lessons to the boy's pace, providing encouragement, and reminding him that setbacks were part of learning. This patience was a cornerstone of their relationship, building trust that made Dewey feel safe to explore, stumble, and try again. This dedicated mentorship fostered a bond that transcended teacher and pupil. Truong became a mentor, a guide, and a guardian presence in Dui's life, someone who saw the boy's potential beyond the immediate hardships of their rural existence. In him, Truong saw the hope of a brighter future, not just for Dui, but for their entire village. The progress made by Dui reverberated throughout the community, inspiring others. Young children gathered with curiosity, older villagers renewed their appreciation for education, and parents began to see the tangible benefits of literacy. In subtle yet powerful ways, the village's collective outlook shifted. Education was increasingly valued as a pathway from subsistence to sustainability, from survival to thriving. Throughout these transformative times, Truong remained grounded in the knowledge that learning was not a destination, but a lifelong journey. He encouraged Dui to dream big, to believe in the power of books, and to understand that while the village shaped roots, knowledge could give wings. The boy began to envision going beyond the immediate horizon, imagining the possibility of attending school more regularly, of reading not just local stories but worlds beyond their own, and ultimately of contributing back to his community with the gifts of knowledge and compassion. Summer rain showers and tranquil evenings became the backdrop to moments of reflection. Under starry skies, Truong and Dui often spoke of dreams, hopes, and the importance of perseverance. These intimate conversations reaffirmed their mutual commitment, both recognizing that education was a key to unlocking potential, but that it required work, courage, and a supportive environment to flourish. Truong's teaching extended beyond academics. He modeled values of humility, patience, generosity, and respect, principles that were the foundation of their close-knit village life. He taught Dui that wisdom came not only from books, but from listening to elders, caring for neighbors, and honoring their shared heritage. This holistic education prepared the boy not just for exams or schoolwork, but for life itself. As the years moved forward, the fruits of these efforts began to show beyond the classroom and fruit-laden trees. Dui became a source of inspiration, a symbol of what could be possible when a child's innate curiosity was met with dedicated care. His success was celebrated not as personal triumph alone, but as the victory of a community that nurtured him, a community transformed in spirit by the hope he embodied. In the end, the story of Truong and Dui was not simply about a boy learning to read and write. It was about the creating of a future where education was a bridge, connecting past to present, village to wider world, effort to reward, and heart to possibility. It was a testament to the enduring human spirit, the power of patient mentorship, and the profound impact that one caring soul could have in lighting the way for another. Underneath the shade of fruit trees, amidst the fragrance of guavas and lemons, a quiet revolution of knowledge and hope continued to unfold, one word, one lesson, and one shared moment at a time.